Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, Three Principles practitioner, Adey-Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading Three Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
I'm so excited to be joined by Stef Cybichowski. Stef is a master transformative coach, trainer, and speaker. He has an absolute passion for seeing people wake up to their own innate well-being. Stef wants to help others discover their infinite creative genius and their potential to enjoy an endlessly deeper and richer experience of life. Amongst a whole range of people he works with are business leaders and teams, children, parents, and teachers in schools. And in his spare time, he can be found mentoring coaching students on Michael Neal's Super Coach Academy. Welcome, Stef. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Dale.
Hi.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
So if you fall asleep, I'll give you I'll bust you.
Just
You're a
prod
little
me.
prod
Yeah.
you. You're a little jet lagged, and I really appreciate you coming on, even though that was a lot of traveling you were doing.
Yeah, it was Lacona to Seattle to LA, and then from LA to the UK. It took about 2 days.
Ooh, oh dear. Well, I'm so glad you're here. So, my first question is, I'd love to find out, how you came across this understanding and how it basically impacted your life or even changed your life in many circumstances. So,
That's a really good first question. So
right in there.
right in there. So I've always been interested in what makes people tick. You know, I've always been interested in what kind of gets me up in the morning and what doesn't when I don't, if you see what I mean. So I used to have a design business for about 20 years. And I used to love the best part of it for me was to be able to spend time with my partners and my and the employees and work out what the best way to get the best out of them was. And I tried a number of things like NLP and CBT, lots of models, and in so doing, I did quite a lot of NLP training. And what I found was that even though NLP was really useful, it wasn't really something that seemed to have a long-term effect. And so round about that time, I was going through some personal issues. My marriage ended, and I ended up being a single parent to my son Sam, and I was also looking after my dad, caring for my dad, and I had to reassess my life, if you like. I had to come to terms with what I felt was a huge loss, and come to terms with what I felt was a very bleak future. And around that time, I read The Inside Out Revolution by Michael Neal. And something in it resonated with me. I don't know what it was. I hadn't got a clue, but something just felt true about the three principles. And so I embarked on to try and find out some more. I did some programs, and I ended up doing Super Coach Academy with Michael. And during Super Coach Academy, I began to see how I had made up this person that I thought I was. I'd always had huge insecurity, depression, low level anxiety, and life always seemed to be a bit of a struggle for me. And I began to see just how much of that lack of self-worth and confusion was something that was to do with my made up Stef, the person that never got anything right, the person that couldn't do what he wanted to do because he didn't think it was possible for him. It was for everybody else, but not him. I began to see how I actually had done things in my life that were successful. I'd done things in my life that I could be proud of, but I realized I never, ever saw the things that I'd done, the things that I'd succeeded in. I only ever saw the things that I felt I failed in. So seeing that was a huge, huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I began to see that I was something much bigger than the person I'd made myself up to be.
Pretty profound.
It really was. It really was. And that's something that I really, really want to share with people, because so many people that I see have the same view of themselves, same view of life.
I know. I could have been listening to my story when you were sharing right then.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if it's almost like a survival mechanism built into this. Not talking about the beautiful, who we truly are, our essence, but in the human sort of psychology, that if we keep remembering the things that we did wrong, or that we judge as bad or having failed, that somehow we're going to get stronger and more, and we survive better. But it's actually the other way round, isn't it? We crush ourselves. We tell ourselves these stories and shrink.
That's absolutely true. And I think what we do is we create this image of ourselves, which is, Sid Banks would say, our ego is basically what we think about ourselves and what we think about the world. That's all it is. It's just our thoughts. So, and our ego, because it's based on lack, because it's based on scarcity, it always it feels it needs more. It feels that it's not good enough. So no matter how successful we are, when we come from a point, when we show up as ego, it's never enough, whatever we do. Even if we win the lottery and we have more money than we could ever dreamed of, then that feeling of lack and insecurity in us will feed in like, I'm going to lose it all tomorrow. I need to have more to feel secure. And it's never enough when we see life from the point of ego.
So true. But it's remarkable that you saw it so soon when you first came across it. I have to say, I'm a bit thick, so it took me a little longer to sort of really, really get that. But I've still taken my insecure thinking like it was real and meant something, and still there was that striving, and it's just so backwards. It's completely the other way. It's like, I know. But that's beautiful that you saw that. So how did your life change? How did that manifest?
Oh, it was interesting. So I decided, before I kind of had been learning the principles for very long, I decided that I would really like to be a coach. So I did what all good businessmen do when they're about to launch a business. Is I went away and wrote a 3-year plan, and I knew who my clients would be, what niche they would be in, what location they'd be in, how much I needed to charge in order to support myself and a living. And I started Supercoach with that in mind. I thought I was really clever doing that, really responsible. And then part of the requirements is that you do so many sessions, so many coaching sessions while you're learning. And So with this mindset, I went out and said to people, basically, I'm learning to be a coach. I want to build my business, and it's all about me. It's all about me, obviously. Would you like to help? And not surprisingly, I couldn't get arrested. Nobody wanted to
help
to
you.
be coached by me because it was all about me. I mean, I remember I thinking, well, I can do this. I can have a business and I can fix myself. And by the way, I'll help people as well, and in that order. And people felt that, they felt that that's where I was coming from. And so at one point early on, I said to myself, I'm going to give up on this because obviously nobody wants to be coached by me. I can't be very good at it. So I gave up. I didn't give up learning about the principles, but I gave up wanting to have a business. And what replaced that was I just kind of fell into sharing the principles just because it would help people. Weird, huh?
Yeah,
really. And then all of a sudden people kind of liked that when it wasn't about me and it was about serving them. That was a huge lesson for me.
Yeah.
So what happened then, once I fell into actually serving people, was that I was asked to do different things by different people who were also training on Supercoach Academy. And I ended up in China working with business leaders and teams in these huge casino resorts. I ended up working in the Middle East with huge teams. And Adele, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
But what it had taught me, what I'd learned was that if I showed up without needing to know, if I showed up without trying to pretend that I was an expert and I just sat with people and was present with them, that was enough. Yeah. Because people don't get listened to very much, I noticed, especially in those, in those areas.
Those cultures.
So I was really lucky is that I had this amazing opportunity to learn as I went. And I knew that it was really helpful if I didn't pretend that I knew what I was doing. If I just showed up as me.
Well, I think this is what the understanding is constantly pointing to, that it's not an intellectual understanding. It is about the feeling. And clearly all that was required was for you to have seen something that was so impactful for you. And people know that. They recognize that. That's all they care about is, I want a bit of what he's got.
Yeah.
And it's just infectious.
I think so. This is how it looks to me, is that when I'm in a coaching conversation, or when I'm in any conversation really, if there's less Stef there, if there's less self-consciousness, if there's less noise going in my head that's taking me away from listening, not just listening to the other person, but listening for what wisdom wants to be said, then if I'm in that place, it doesn't go so well. But if I'm less self-conscious, if I'm in this moment, touching this space, then it sounds a bit pretentious, but it feels right. That space wakes up in the other person. They begin to get a sense of it. They know they're not being judged. They know they're not being criticized. They know they're not being listen to be talked at. They know that the listening is on a deeper level. And people feel that, and it wakes up that space in them. And then they want more of it. That's what people want. They want to be in touch with wisdom. They want to be in touch with who they really are. They want that peace, that love, that feeling of okay. So that's all that we do. That's all you do. That's all I do. We just point people towards that space.
And it is, it's so easy. It's so beautiful. I've taken I did some NLP too, many other coaching courses. And I used to say sometimes they give you so many tools that you're sort of rattling your toolbox as to what do I pull out here and there. And it's like, no, you don't need any of that. Like you said, that's a distraction. That means you're up in your head thinking about what tool to use when we know that everybody has everything they need inside of them.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
I would do, towards the end of the NLP course that I do, we would do coaching each other, and some of the people that I've been working with were talking about some really, really traumatic stuff. They were being really vulnerable, and I found that by trying to approach that from an intellectual point of view, from a technique or a strategy, a 6-step reframe or whatever, it was like a band-aid. It was like a plaster, just temporarily covering the wound. What I found, much to my surprise when I started, was just sitting and being with somebody, being in presence with somebody, had a much deeper effect. It didn't just temporarily do something. It kind of, it gave people an idea of what it's like to be quiet, to be beneath whatever noise they had in their head, and it gave them a different perspective just because in that moment they could get quiet. And as I say, at that time I didn't have a clue what I was doing, nothing at all, apart from just show up and be and listen, and
but isn't that beautiful? Because that's all we need to know. I mean, we're kidding ourselves if we're getting caught up in plans and strategies and where next. It's just, it's really, really enough. And the gift, what's so beautiful is, again, when we're, in the old models of coaching or NLP, it's like we can help you. Whereas with this, it's like, you just have to get quiet and you'll hear your own wisdom. You don't need me. There's nothing I can give you that you don't have already in you.
As I say, there aren't that many people that experience being listened to without an agenda, that experience being listened to from a deeper place, without judgment, without criticism, or without needing to be fixed, and like I say, once people begin to feel what it's like, what that space is like, then there's a whole new world begins to open up for them, and they get curious about what it is, and they get open about what it is, and then the conversation starts, and it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I have to pinch myself now every day, because I get to connect with people in such a loving space, such a a mutually loving space. You know, it's touching love. It's touching who we really are.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, and it's so true. It's when you hear people and they don't have this understanding yet, and they're suffering so much just from, like you say, the labels they put on themselves, the stories they've created that are so sort of suffocating and confining, and they just don't know what's available.
Yeah.
And just by doing what you're saying, just by sitting with them and just letting them be heard.
Yeah. But I think to me, it feels like what happens to human beings is we're born, and then we get to 5 or 6 years old or whatever it is, and we begin to learn to be conditioned. We learn that what our parents say about us, what what our teachers say about us, what the media says about us. We learn what we think life is. We learn what we think we are, and it's like we build a little tiny little prison for ourselves, a little box, and we very lovingly, sort of decorate it with, oh, this is who I am, and this is who I am. This is quite innocently, because this is the information we're being told, and this is what we believe. We have like concepts and constructs of our culture that we just take on board, and we build this little prison for ourselves, and we live from that place. We live from what we think is possible for us, which is tiny. And I think what this conversation does is it allows people to see that we are so much more than this little box that we've painted ourselves into. So for me, I had this idea I was going to be a coach. I knew where I was going to coach, who I was going to coach, how much money I was going to coach. And then once my prison was broken open, and I let life guide me, I opened up to what life wanted rather than what Stef wanted. I ended up, working in places and with people that I did not have the imagination to plan.
Isn't that always the case, though? I mean, with our limited little human brains, I mean, when we allow ourselves to be, lived through us, I mean, it's magical. It's like, really? This? Oh my God, I could never have thought of that.
Exactly.
I resonated with you when you were describing yourself on, I think it may have been Jason's show that you did, and that you had this label of, I'm shy, or I have low self-esteem, and so therefore, because I have this sort of, self-diagnosed low self-esteem or whatever, I can't go for those types of jobs, or I can't ask that girl out, or whatever it is. And it's so innocent, and it's remarkable once we just see that is a self-imposed prison that we always have the key to. We just don't know it.
Exactly. I was on a program, and I heard a Sid quote. It was a really short one, and it was something like, "It's all just love and mystery." And I don't know why, but I kind of started crying. And then I started laughing, and then I started crying again. I don't know I didn't know then what had hit me. It was a bit embarrassing because I had to go out for lunch and I was still crying. And I got back, and the last couple of years have been seeing that we all think we know what life is. That's what part of the conditioning is. If you're going to have a successful life and you're going to survive, then you need to know how it works. Therefore, you need to make sure you're safe. You need to make sure you're secure. You need to have all these plans, and you need to know exactly what you're going to be doing in 5 years' time. And there's the box. There's the box. And what I've seen is that the mystery part is that we don't know. Exactly. We don't have the capacity or the imagination that life's got. So if we understand that, even if we just get a glimpse of it, we don't know. We really don't know. We can't know. Then seeing that helps us to relax into life. It allows us to trust the guidance system a lot more. It means that we don't try and control life so much because we need to feel okay, because we need to feel safe. We get a sense that beyond our ideas and concepts of what life is, there is something holding us, something sustaining us. There's a whole ecosystem out there that's just nurturing us and giving us not necessarily what we want, but giving us what we need. Totally. And the love part of it is so beneath our ideas of how life should be, when we touch that space, when we're not living in our ego, when we touch that space, it's just love. We show up in life with love and kindness and compassion and understanding, and creativity, and that is all we are. That is everything.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. When you shared that love and, did you say love and mystery?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly, because that's all we are. That's all we are is love. And yes, the rest of it is a mystery. But in that mystery is the potential, that infinite potential of what we couldn't even begin to conceive or imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. And the feeling that comes with that is so deep. It's such a beautiful feeling. It feels like being held, doesn't it?
Yeah. Safe.
Yeah.
So I can't believe we've come to the end of this, but that is a beautiful note to end on. Okay. Beautiful feeling to carry with us. Yeah. For everybody else that's listening, I'm sure they could feel it from you too. So.
Del, thank you so much.
Thank you
really,
too.
Really, really have so much appreciation for being here. Thank you.
Same with you. Thank you so much for sharing yourself with us.
Bless you.
And you too, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you're interested in learning more about my coaching and mentoring packages, please reach out to me at deladeyjones@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you.